parents, they are demanding answers onto what these security officers are planning to do next, because they're saying they've been kept since early morning, and up until now they're yet to get access to the bodies of those students. But from the Nairobi regional commander there, Jafet Gomez, he has clearly indicated that the government, a team of government pathologists, are still, working on and they're trying to identify those bodies, but he had not given some sort of a timeline on up to what time they need to finish that job, and at least give the parents their time to comfort themselves at this very trying moment. And here in studio together with Susan as well as Emmanuel, they're both stakeholders in the education sector. Susan Gitau is an education psychologist. Now, Susan, we've seen various tragedies in this country, top of it being the Changuli fire disaster that claimed so many lives of students. So people are still asking, don't we learn from past experiences in this country?
I don't think we do learn, because if we do, we will be talking about where we were and where we are and where we want to go. I do not think we do learn. Yet I know there are also serious people, especially the private sector, who have come out in their own capacity to try and help schools that are also willing. You may find like maybe private schools, they have their safety management in check. Yes. You may find most of the public schools with the cry about not having adequate funds, they may not be good at it. And if you also look at the whole situation at Moi Girls, that tells it all. It tells it all. Because even as Kenyans, we have never learned that whenever there is a disaster somewhere, you don't go overcrowded because you don't know what else can happen. What about even the girls who are there? Are there smoke checkers, such that the first girl who smelled that smoke knew what to do or what action to take? What about the nation at the moment? What are the school bosses doing? When you know this and this, whatever is happening in the country at the moment, who thinks beyond themselves? Who thinks about the children in this nation? Because this hurts me a lot, because we only think about children. And when I talk about children here, is anybody under 18. We only think about them when disaster happens. And I want to say what the parents are doing. Even up to now, nobody has facts.
Yes.
And when you talk about situational analysis in a disaster situation, the first thing people strive for are facts, because facts will help people remove themselves from irrational thinking, where they will have myths and assumptions instead of facts. In fact, even when you report also that the Moi Girls is near Kibra, somebody else could be interpreting something else. So we need facts so that we do not come up with maybe information that is going to make the situation worse. So at the moment, I am urging the ones on the ground, if you cannot, actually I have seen one of the councillors that I sent, actually there. I have seen there, she's just nowhere. And I want to thank you, Helen Macharia, for taking this opportunity.
So basically, Susan, you're saying coordination is key in this kind of tragedy.
Key. And it's a key in this sense. Who should be there? Who should be there? Yes, the disaster team is there. They have their role. What about the psychosocial part of it? Who is there? You always find Red Cross. And Red Cross and the disaster management unit, they almost do the same thing. Who is going to calm these people? Right now, if you look at Kome, by the way, he also needs psychological support at this moment. Because if you cannot use your emotional intelligence in a situation like this one, that you can actually get yourself also in a situation that can compromise your stand as the person who is supposed to keep structure, order, and discipline. People may not believe in you.
And Susan, apart from Kome, let's talk about the parents who've lost their loved ones.
Yes.
You know, the students there, the 8 of them.
Yes.
And government pathologists are still trying to identify their bodies, we're being told.
Yes.
So what do you think they're supposed to do at this moment?
At this particular moment, let me tell you, you cannot define their reaction and their behavior, because you have seen some parents, especially the male parents, they're actually trying to push their way through. it is okay for them to behave that way. All I pray is that nobody adds insults to injury to these parents. And what needs to happen at this particular moment, there actually should be that special room, like he was talking about, where they can be confined. And again, make sure there are no dangerous materials around, so that we take care of them. Whoever wants to cry in their own style, maybe falling down and all that, it is allowed. But for the ones, because there are people who have high frustration tolerance, even in such a situation, you can see a parent who almost is sure my daughter is among the ones that have died in that tragedy. And maybe they have that emotional and psychological stability. What I pray is that they also become a source of support for the others at this particular moment, and try to help the others, because we don't operate at the same level, to help the others to be there. And the counselors who are there, identify yourself. I know I called them in the morning. There is actually nothing to identify ourselves, like the way Red Cross has. For us, we don't have, unless you come with your own institution, you come with your own association. There is actually no national outfit for the counselors. And that is why I feel bad, because the Counselors and Psychologists Act 2014 has never been operationalized. And I want to tell the Ministry of Health this way. When we talk about such disasters, it's not about being selfish. Personally, I have a job at the university, at African Nazarene University. But I always go out.
Going out of your
out
way.
of my way. Why should people remain selfish?
Emmanuel, let's talk about the safety guidelines that were given by the Ministry of Education following this kind of disasters that indicated previously that there should be exit doors, and windows in place. And do you think this has been implemented in all schools across the country?
In some schools, not all.
Not all of them.
Yeah,
so it's a disaster in waiting, basically.
It's a disaster in waiting, and that's why I'm surprised that it is the Nairobi governor who is coming out and saying we will inspect schools, which is not within his mandate. Where are the people mandated to inspect schools regularly to make sure that there is compliance with the guidelines that were provided? We need to find out whether this school that unfortunately has been affected by this tragedy was compliant with those guidelines. We also need to keep reviewing those guidelines over time, because if you look at many of the guidelines, they focus more on minimizing damage in the event of these disasters. They don't focus on preventing the disaster. Like we were talking off the cuff around the issue of schools hiring old men as guards, who may not be able to respond to certain situations when they happen. That is a problem. Where are the external mechanisms, firefighters, to be able to arrive on the scene within minutes of an alarm being raised? The information we were getting from the media, which we don't know how accurate it is that the rescuers arrived on the scene 2 hours later. Yeah, were they going to rescue anything? If there's a fire and you come 2 hours after it broke out,
that's way too late.
Rescue anything? No. We need guidelines to that effect as well. External involvement, because the guidelines that are there are this should be the size of the door. It should open on the out to make it easy for escape. This should be there should be emergency exits. There should be regular drills, which I'm not sure they are happening. Can we also focus on mechanisms that will prevent these fires from happening in the first place? Because the issue of preventing injury when the fire happens is well articulated. We just need to follow through the compliance.
And most of the deaths you're told are caused by stampede, students trying to get out of their dormitories. Susan, you were a teacher before, and if you go to most high schools, like Emmanuel has mentioned, the guards are normally old, wazees standing by the gate. Do you think it's about time that schools start investing in proper security, or it has to do with funding? Or it's schools having their priorities upside down? Funding
is one. But a country and an education system that does not take the safety of the learning institutions
should be paramount.
It should be paramount. And it's very true, especially if you go to public schools in the rural setting. I don't know about Moi Girls because I wasn't there. I didn't have time to get there. You find old men. and old men who are also not well schooled, meaning we pay them as little as 5,000.
And they're tired. I'm sure they are sleeping.
They're tired. By the way, some of them are actually caught off guard. You know, have you ever heard of a watchman who was slaughtered alive? You know, and you ask yourself, where were they? The other thing he has talked about, the drills. I've never seen any school doing the drills. And if they are, they need to come out at this particular moment and showcase for Kenya that we do the drills. And they are done at different times of the day. It could be at night. It could be early morning. It could be actually during the day, maybe when the learning is going on. I don't know. Like last year when he talks about the July and August, the fires that broke out of this country in many of the schools, they were actually a very good ground for the commission that was put in place. I think we also don't set targets, especially performance targets, when we are given an assignment. Because if you're given an assignment, there should be timeline. And you should give us a report. And from that report, we should have something running. Like he's saying, I think after us, they should be the next people coming here. Because we will not wait for another one. I want to imagine parents are panicking. Right now, I know there are parents who've gone for their children. Is that taking the country forward, or is actually taking the country backwards? When somebody somewhere should have done something at the right time. Just like I'm talking about the issue of the counselors and psychologists. The Ministry of Health, we know the mandate, it is just to make sure Kenyans are healthy, and basically, physiologically and all that. But they want to take the counselors and psychologists under them. It can't happen. We don't even work like the psychiatrists. We give our clients a lot of time. Like now, the counselors, they're very patient. They're still there. And I believe if they're helping anyone, maybe they're helping the wrong people, instead of targeting the ones who need this help.
Unfortunately, maybe some of them have been blocked outside
This is it. I know they told me that.
The school.
Yes.
Now, Emmanuel, let's talk about the incident in Sigoti High School. And the head teacher is on record having said that this is not an internal issue. He has ruled out any sort of electrical fault and is blaming it on external individuals, on external factors. Why do you think anybody will rise up and try and attack a school?
There are many possible reasons. I don't know why someone would do that, but there are many possible reasons. We've had cases where there are people, the communities around schools that have issues with the management of the school. We have just sheer criminality, where someone is just a criminal and they are looking to commit an act of crime.
Yes.
We have cases where it's political as well. And in Kenya, we know that many things get easily politicized. And I'm hoping that this time we have the benefit of having the CS for Interior being the same CS for Education, and that he has therefore all the tools at his disposal to put together Ministry of Education and Ministry of Interior to get to conclusive investigations around what has happened in these two schools. I believe one thing, that every fire in this country, in every school, has its own unique causes. It is important that we establish those causes, we establish the players, we punish them as soon as possible. If we don't, we encourage others to do the same. That is what happened last year, and up to 100 schools were banned. That is likely to happen now if there are no consequences to such actions. If there are no consequences to such actions of clear criminality, there will be, I repeat, I used to teach economics in my earlier days. A criminal maximizes returns to crime subject to punishment. If there's no punishment.
Okay, I think you've delivered a point. Now, Susan, I think you remember what happened last year, immediately after the current education CS assumed office. There were rampant cases of school arson, fire tragedies, fire incidents. They were almost reported on a daily basis, and those who were blaming it on cartels, I don't know. So it seems it's coming back again. And can you draw a relationship between what happened in Nairobi and what happened in Sigoti?
What happens, and I say it again and again, because I believe in facts. If we have facts right, like the commission that was mandated to give us a report after the fires that we had last year, where is the report? And even now, Moi Girls and Sigoti, where are the facts? Because when you don't have the facts, it would actually not be good enough to say this and this and this. But again, we don't become people who are just complacent, that you say, oh, no. The thing is, you may find that it's true. Students read emotions. Look at the books you did in high school. Like my time, we had Kusadikika, Kilio Chahaki, you know, and you had teachers who would make you see not what is there, how you can reason. They want you to see the scenario in the country. So there was a lot was also, like he said, we politicize almost everything. And sometimes the young mind is very receptive.
Yes.
The young mind is also very subjective.
They're looking at the society and what is
This
happening.
is it. And I want to say, any role model, if you know you are a role model, you are an opinion shaper, this is the wrong time to say and have statements that can actually fuel conflicts, because the students are just there. Remember, there is tension.
Yes.
And the teachers, I also want to say, like last year, the teachers were against what the CAs wanted implemented. And maybe without their awareness, they were talking when the students are around, just like in a home. You talk about so and so and so and so when the children are there. What are you teaching them? To actually replicate the same. So at the moment, I want to say we could have a political aspect to it. We could have maybe the criminal aspect to it. We could also have the ignorance.
Of course, we will finally wait for that investigation by the relevant authorities to be complete. But at this moment, we know that both schools have been closed down for 2 weeks, and investigations are going on. So reports reaching us is that 8 students from Moi Girls High School in Kibra have been confirmed dead. 10 others have been admitted to hospital. 2 are still in critical condition. We're going to link up with our reporter Duncan Khaimba within, of course, right here on KTN News. He's going to tell us more on what is happening on the ground. Many thanks, Susan Gitao, for your input, as well as Emmanuel Manyasa. Thank you, both of you. Of course, we'll be sticking with this story. Don't go too far, because Khaimba is